The werewolf, a creature of myth that transforms from human to beast, under the light of a full moon, has haunted folklore for centuries. From medieval European tales to modern horror films like An American Werewolf in London and The Howling, the idea of a lunar-triggered metamorphosis captivates the imagination. But is there any scientific basis for the full moon's alleged influence on human behavior? Or is the werewolf legend purely a product of cultural storytelling? This exploration delves into the origins of werewolf mythology, the science behind lunar effects on biology and psychology, and the interplay between superstition and reality, all in a documentary-style analysis to uncover what science says about the full moon effect. The myth of the werewolf. Werewolf legends are deeply rooted in human history, appearing across cultures with striking consistency. In European folklore, particularly in France and Germany, werewolves were often depicted as cursed individuals or victims of supernatural pacts, transforming into wolves during a full moon. These stories, dating back to at least the Middle Ages, often served as cautionary tales about sin, savagery, or the dangers of the wilderness. Similar myths exist elsewhere. The Navajo Skinwalker, the West African Hyena Man, and the South American Lobizón all share themes of human-animal transformation tied to supernatural forces. The full moon is a central motif in werewolf lore, symbolizing a trigger for uncontrollable change. This connection likely stems from the moon's prominence in ancient cultures, where it governed calendars, agriculture, and rituals. Its cyclical nature and eerie glow made it a natural focal point for stories of transformation and madness. But does the full moon hold any real power over human behavior? Or is this association a relic of superstition? The full moon and human behavior, the lunar effect. Hypothesis. The belief that the full moon influences human behavior, often called the lunar effect, has persisted for centuries. It's linked to everything from increased crime rates to mental health crises and even werewolf-like aggression. To evaluate this, we must examine scientific studies on the moon's impact on biology, psychology, and behavior. Historical context. The lunar effect draws from ancient associations between the moon and madness, encapsulated in the term lunacy, from the Latin luna, meaning moon. Early societies observed that the moon influenced tides, plant growth, and animal behavior, leading to speculation about its effects on humans. By the 19th century, medical professionals and criminologists began documenting perceived spikes in erratic behavior during full moons, though these claims were often anecdotal. Psychological studies. Modern science has rigorously tested the lunar effect. A 1985 meta-analysis by psychologists James Rotten and Ivan Kelly reviewed over 37 studies on the full moon's impact on behavior, including crime, suicides, psychiatric admissions, and emergency room visits. They found no consistent evidence linking the full moon to significant behavioral changes. Subsequent studies, such as 1998 analysis in the Journal of Emergency Medicine, confirmed that emergency room visits and psychiatric incidents do not spike during full moons. However, some smaller studies report conflicting results. A 2004 study in perceptual and motor skills found a slight increase in violent crime during full moons in certain regions, but the effect was statistically weak and not universally replicated. The inconsistency suggests that any perceived lunar effect may stem from confirmation bias. People notice and remember events that align with their expectations about the full moon. Biological mechanisms. Could the full moon exert a biological influence? The moon's gravitational pull drives ocean tides, but its effect on the human body is negligible. The human body is roughly 60% water, but unlike oceans, this water is contained within cells and tissues, unaffected by lunar gravity. A 2013 study in Current Biology explored circadian rhythms, finding that lunar cycles might subtly influence sleep patterns, with participants sleeping slightly less during full moons. However, the effect was minor, about 20 minutes less sleep, and not linked to aggression or transformation. Hormonal changes are another potential mechanism. Some animals, like corals, synchronize reproduction with lunar cycles, but no evidence suggests human hormones respond similarly. The pineal gland, which regulates melatonin and sleep, is sensitive to light, but the full moon's brightness is far weaker than artificial lighting, making it unlikely to disrupt human physiology significantly. Neurological and psychiatric perspectives. If werewolves represent extreme behavioral shifts, could a neurological condition mimic their traits? Disorders like epilepsy, once called moonsickness, were historically linked to lunar cycles. Modern research, including a 2004 study in epilepsy and behavior, found no consistent correlation between seizures and the full moon. Similarly, conditions like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, which can involve agitation or delusions, show no lunar patterns in symptom severity. A rare condition called clinical lycanthropy, a psychiatric disorder where individuals believe they transform into animals, comes closest to the werewolf archetype. Patients may exhibit wolf-like behaviors, such as howling or aggression, but these episodes are not tied to lunar cycles and are typically managed with psychotherapy or medication. The prevalence of clinical lycanthropy is extremely low, with fewer than 200 documented cases worldwide. Animal behavior in lunar cycles. Since werewolves are often depicted as wolf-human hybrids, examining lunar effects on wolves offers insight. Wolves are nocturnal and rely on moonlight for hunting, but studies such as a 2010 analysis in behavioral ecology show no significant behavioral changes tied to lunar phases. Wolf howling, often associated with full moons, is primarily a social or territorial behavior, not a lunar response. Other animals, like owls or bats, also show no consistent lunar-driven aggression or transformation. Pathogens and werewolf-like symptoms. Could a disease produce werewolf-like symptoms, such as aggression or physical changes? As explored in prior discussions of zombie-like pathogens, certain infections can alter behavior. Rabies, for instance, causes aggression and hydrophobia, and its bite-driven transmission aligns with werewolf myths, where a bite often triggers transformation. However, rabies lacks a lunar connection and kills hosts too quickly to sustain a werewolf-like epidemic. Porphyria, a group of rare genetic disorders, has been historically linked to werewolf legends. Porphyria causes photosensitivity, skin lesions, and in some cases, psychiatric symptoms like delirium. In medieval Europe, these symptoms may have been mistaken for supernatural transformation, especially if exacerbated by moonlight exposure. However, porphyria is not contagious, and its symptoms are far less dramatic than fictional werewolf transformations. Environmental and social factors. The full moon's cultural impact may amplify its perceived effects. In societies where lunar myths are prevalent, people may attribute unusual behavior to the full moon, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. For example, police officers or hospital staff expecting chaos during a full moon may be more vigilant, leading to higher reported incidents. A 2007 study in Social Psychology Quarterly highlighted how social expectations shape perceptions of lunar effects, even when data shows no causal link. Environmental factors like increased moonlight could indirectly influence behavior. Brighter nights might encourage outdoor activity, potentially leading to more accidents or conflicts. However, urban environments with artificial lighting diminish the moon's visibility, making such effects less relevant today. The role of folklore in media. Werewolf mythology thrives in storytelling, from ancient oral traditions to modern media. Medieval tales often frame werewolves as cursed or demonic, reflecting fears of losing humanity to primal instincts. The full moon's role emerged later, possibly influenced by 19th century Gothic literature such as The Werewolf of Paris, 1933. Hollywood cemented the trope, with films like The Wolf Man, 1941, establishing the full moon as the definitive trigger. Modern media amplifies the werewolf myth, blending science and fiction. Shows like Teen Wolf and True Blood depict werewolves with biological or genetic origins, yet still tied to lunar cycles. These narratives fuel public fascination, but often misrepresent scientific realities, perpetuating the lunar effect myth. Scientific skepticism and the power of belief. Skeptics argue that the full moon effect is a classic case of correlation mistaken for causation. Humans are pattern-seeking creatures, and the full moon's dramatic presence makes it an easy scapegoat for unexplained events. Cognitive biases, such as the availability heuristic, lead people to recall incidents during full moons more vividly, even if statistically unremarkable. The placebo effect also plays a role. If individuals believe the full moon makes them act irrationally, they may behave accordingly, reinforcing the myth. A 2011 study in Psychological Reports found that self-reported lunar believers were more likely to report unusual experiences during full moons, despite no objective increase in incidence. Could a werewolf scenario happen? A literal werewolf transformation, humans morphing into wolves, is biologically impossible. Human anatomy cannot support such rapid, reversible changes in bone structure, musculature, or physiology. Genetic engineering or extreme mutations could in theory produce hybrid traits, but these would not resemble the cinematic werewolf. A more plausible scenario involves a pathogen or neurological condition inducing werewolf-like behaviors, aggression, heightened senses, or altered appearance. As discussed, rabies or clinical lycanthropy could mimic some traits, but neither aligns with the full moon or produces the contagious, transformative epidemic of folklore. Even a hypothetical werewolf virus would face biological limits, such as host survival and immune responses, as seen in prior analyses of zombie-like pathogens. Societal implications. If a werewolf-like outbreak occurred, societal responses would mirror those for a zombie apocalypse. Public health systems would deploy containment measures, including quarantine and vaccination. Military or law enforcement could manage aggressive individuals who, lacking supernatural resilience, would be vulnerable to conventional tactics. Misinformation and panic, amplified by media, could exacerbate the crisis, as seen during real pandemics like COVID-19. Conclusion. The werewolf and the full moon effect are captivating myths, but science offers little support for their reality. Studies consistently debunk the lunar effect on human behavior, finding no significant link to aggression, crime, or psychiatric episodes. Biological mechanisms, from gravitational pull to hormonal changes, fail to explain the transformative power attributed to the full moon. While pathogens like rabies or conditions like porphyria echo aspects of werewolf lore, they fall short of the dramatic, lunar-triggered transformations of fiction. The enduring appeal of werewolves lies in their symbolism, the struggle between civilization and savagery, the fear of losing control, and the allure of the unknown. By examining the science behind the full moon effect, we see not a supernatural force, but a testament to humanity's capacity for storytelling and belief. The werewolf remains a creature of the imagination, howling not under the moon's influence, but in the shadows of our collective psyche. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to this channel for more content. Thank you.